Good morning, YouTube. This is Trey here from Team Hotheads. I'm coming at you with another deck profile. This time I'm going to be going over my Mirror Force Dark Layer deck. If you haven't played this deck in a while, if you don't know what this deck does, this deck basically says, I don't care if you attack. Go for it. Be my guest. But I guarantee you I have a Mirror Force face down. Really funny deck. Really awesome deck. A deck that'll really surprise people. It is very back row heavy, so you will have to be susceptible to things like Twin Twisters, Cosmic Cyclones. But the sheer amount of back row you can put down, kind of won't care about a Twin Twister. You know, if you put 4 or 5 cards down in your back row, your opponent Twin Twisters, they may hit a Mirror Force, they may not, but I guarantee you'll have more than one face down. I've been pissing a lot of my friends off with this deck. It's just completely hilarious. So without further ado, let's get into the deck profile. Alright, so we're going to start off with the monsters here, and the monster count is going to be pretty low for this deck, mainly because we want to maximize on our back row. But since this is Dark Layer, of course, we're going to be running triple Diablos. For those of you who have never seen this deck, I know it's fairly new, but it's also I know it's also been out for a while. So if you've never seen how this deck works, Diablos basically is a level 8 dragon 3k. He's your beat stick of the deck. He's your boss monster of the deck. If a dark monster is tributed, a dark monster you control is tributed while he's in your graveyard, you special summon him. If a dark monster tribute, one of your dark monsters is tributed while he's in your hand, or even if he's not in your hand, you get to summon him. And then he can tribute a dark monster to make your opponent take one card from their hand and put it on the top or the bottom of their deck. Now, while your opponent does get to choose that, it does kind of snatch a card out your opponent's hand, so it'll either keep them from drawing something new, or they'll just ditch a card they don't need. Either way, your opponent's going to be down in hand advantage, which is going to be great. Now, the reason I bring up that he can be summoned even if he's not in your hand is because this guy right here. 3 copies of Arima, the Wicked Warden. So Arima has an effect where he can tribute a dark monster and he can draw a card. If he tributes a dark monster other than himself, you can add this guy straight to your hand. So a lot of times you can tribute a token, add him to your hand, and then summon him because he was in your hand and you tributed a card. You also can discard Arima to search your field spell, Layer of Darkness. Following our Dark Layer trifecta, we of course are running triple copies of Lilith, Lady of Lament. People who don't know what this card does, they see this card and go, what? So she basically tributes a dark monster herself or anything else like that. Tributes a dark monster. You reveal 3 normal trap cards from your deck. Your opponent picks one at random and it gets set to your side of the field. This is a quick effect you can do on either player's turn, which is pretty great because then she can dodge things that your opponent's trying to do. If you do normal summon her, her attack does become 1,000, which, I mean, she has a 2,000 attack, which is great, but it also lets her be a crush card target, which is pretty cool too. The rest of the monsters we are playing a one of, and they're pretty much just spot removal monsters. So we're running 2 copies of Duke Shade. This guy is basically a kaiju. While you have Layer of Darkness on the field, he can kaiju one of your opponent's cards, plus any amount of dark monsters you control, and he gets 500 for each one attributed. You can also target a level 5 or higher dark monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand, so he gets you back your Diablo if it's in your graveyard. One of the best things you can do with this guy is if you have a token, field full of tokens, they're all dark, they're summoned from Dark Layer, you contribute all your tokens and then maybe one of cards your opponent controls, and then he's going to get at least the highest, I guess, would be 3,000 attack, being the 1 card your opponent controls and the 5 cards you control. So it'll be, 3,500 attack, which is great because now he's another beat stick. But at the end of the day, he's basically a removal for your opponent while you have Layer of Darkness on the field. The other guy is a removal for your opponent when you don't have Dark Layer on the field, and that's going to be 2 copies of Raiden, the multi-dimensional kaiju. We're going with Raiden because he is a dark, which is great. If you need it, because we do run a Lord of Darkness in here, so if you do need to dig and he's the only target you have in your hand, you can just, get rid of him if you don't need him for your Lord of Darkness target. And then last 2 cards, which I just think are awesome. I can't wait to get this one ultra rare like this guy, is Eater of Millions. Banish 5 cards from Eater of Millions, and you just pick off, again, his spot removal. You can pick off any card your opponent has. His effect does not target. Anything he battles once per turn can be banished face down. So it doesn't target, it removes a card. The Kaiju doesn't target, it removes a card. And the Duke Shade does not target, it just removes a card. So those 6 cards are your spot removal. And then the 9 Dark Layer cards are basically your Dark Layer cards. Moving on to your spells, you're going to be running triple Allure of Darkness. every card in here is dark. You do have to be kind of careful when you activate Lure of Darkness in this deck because you only get to draw 2, and you don't really want to hit anything you possibly need. So, like, you're most likely going to want to get rid of maybe a Diablos, maybe a Kaiju, but Lure of Darkness is a little tricky when you want to play this deck. The other card is not going to be tricky. Your draw card is going to be, right now they're triple power duality, but this card is definitely going to be substituted for Card Demise. Once I pick up some Card Demise, this card's going to be Card Demise instantly, because you'll just set your whole hand, play Card Demise, and you draw 3 cards. It's great. Of course, you're running your Lair of Darkness. It's your field spell. It makes all face-up monsters on the field become dark. And once per turn, if you attribute a monster to activate a monster you control to activate a card effect, you contribute 1 monster your opponent controls as if you control it. And at the end of the turn, a mandatory effect does happen. At the end of the turn, for any amount of cards that were attributed, you summon a token for every card that was attributed, or every time a monster was attributed that turn. And the last 2 1-ofs are 1 Terraforming, 1 Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn will get you back your Diablos if you had to send it to the grave for any reason. And Terraforming searches out your Lair of Darkness. I didn't think I needed to run more than 1 Terraforming because I'm only running 2 Lair of Darkness. I have the 3 Arimas. Of course, I'm running Metaverse at 1, so I felt that this was enough. On to your traps. Like I said, of course, running the 1 Metaverse. So we have the 1 Metaverse, the 1 Terraforming, and the 3 copies of Arima if we ever need to search our Lair of Darkness. The last 1-ofs are our 3 viruses. What's a dark layer deck without viruses? So we have Crush Card, which can wipe out anything 1500 attack or more. Full Force is going to wipe out anything 2000 or more defense. Attribute that, and then it wipes out anything with 1500 or less defense. And then Eradicator, this is my back row removal pretty much. Sky Strikers, anything else holding traps, Paleozoics, you flip this up, you tribute your Diablos, and boom, you wipe out their back row. 2-ofs, we're going to run 2 Torrential Tribute, board wipe, and 2 bottomless trap holes. Another, it can be a board wipe if your opponent pendulum summons, but basically get rid of a card and board wipe. The card running at 2 is 2 Drowning Mirror Force. Since Lair of Darkness does summon tokens, you don't really want to have Drowning Mirror Force because most of the times you will have a monster on board. So Drowning Mirror Force isn't that great, so I did cut it from 3 to 2. The last cards we're running are 3 copies of Quaking Mirror Force and 3 copies of Storming Mirror Force. These are your 2 best Mirror Forces in the deck. Shuffles everything back to the hand and puts everything face down. These are the Mirror Forces you're going to want to see the most. These are the Mirror Forces you are going to set with Lilith the most. Extra deck is pretty much personal preference because you can really run anything, but so far I'm just running a couple of links. Link Spider, Proxy Dragon, Decode Talker, and Bomber. You can pretty much put anything you want in the extra deck because you're going to have a bunch of tokens on the field most of the time. Side deck wise, we're just running extra traps. We are running 2 copies of Waking the Dragons. Once your opponent sees that you're running a heavy back row deck, they will try to nuke your back row. So you can side in 1 or 2 copies of this just to surprise your opponent, and then that's when putting crazier cards in your extra deck does come in handy, because then they'll pop this and you can summon anything you want. We're running 2 copies of Floodgate Trap Hole in case you need to, you know, floodgate the board a little more. 2 copies of Mind Crush. If you know what your opponent's playing, you side into Mind Crushes and you just rip anything out of their hand. 2 copies of Blazing Mirror Force. This is for the new tie procedures. If you know you can hit your opponent and then they'll have less life points than you, you hit them with Blazing Mirror Force and then you just gotta stall the rest of the game out. And then 2 copies of Call by the Grave because I don't like hand traps. So that's gonna be the deck. It's my Lair of Darkness Mirror Force deck. Again, you just set your back row and you say, go ahead, swing at me, I dare you. This is Trey from Team Hotheads. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.